Welcome to another live stream, my friends. After another sideways weekend, we have seen volatility pick back up a little bit for Bitcoin as well as the altcoins. Bitcoin on the 4 hour still looking great as far as the midterm, in my opinion. I still think it's very possible we see a little lower prices for the short term. However, it's starting to look more and more like the bulls want to step in a little early based on a few indicators here on the 4 hour. So with that being said, guys, you know that I've been watching for the midterm here on this little ascending triangle so far. And as the title suggests, I think 109K is absolutely possible for Bitcoin. Obviously, it doesn't have to happen. However, if we do end up getting this ascending triangle to play out and we look for some sort of a measured move here, that would take us very close to, well, approximately 109K. So as far as measured moves go, that is absolutely possible. But of course, there is still the possibility that the price ends up dropping to the downside out of this triangle, in which case we have to revisit the thought of retesting support near the bottom of the range here. So that being said, guys, looking at it, the charts for what they are, you guys know that I was mentioning there's actually quite a bit of confluence a little bit just below us. I still think that that remains the same. Basically, the few bits of potential confluence for support would be, obviously, we have the upward trending support line of that ascending triangle. As well, we have the yearly open a little bit below that even. On top of that, guys, we actually reclaimed, we're back above the weekly open, which I love to see. The last couple streams, I think we were trading just below that. So it's nice to see that we actually reclaimed that. And as well, you guys, with the auto charting tools indicator here, we did print a higher low with that indicator. So basically, as long as we are holding this pivot as support, and so far it's looking like it's confirmed, but obviously anything can change in the charts. But so far it's looking great. Like I said, there's just a few things lining up that suggest that, hey, at least we have support if we do end up targeting some levels a little bit lower. As well, the MDX Trendmaster indicator, I've been talking about this one for quite a while now. The fact that we broke this sell signal, the fact we had a lower sell signal, we invalidated it, we printed a higher buy signal. And currently right now, just looking at where the price is, you guys, we are basically testing that purple line perfectly, right? Even where we came down to, where our daily open is, where our weekly open is. I guess those would technically be the same because today's daily candle and weekly open started at the same time last night or yesterday evening, whatever. But it's nice to see that that is lining up perfectly with the MDX Trendmaster buy support there. So love to see that. Like I said, just a little bit of confluence there. And guys, for those of you who are interested in just seeing way more examples of how I'm looking at the markets, how I am viewing some trade setups, strategies, and so on, be sure to scan the QR code on the screen and sign up to BloFin, my personal no KYC exchange of choice, to gain access to my free Telegram channel, as well as the current promo they are running for my followers. And this does run until the 25th of January, you guys. So pretty cool promo there. If that is something that interests you, do yourselves a favor, sign up to that. And like I said, that does get you free access into my Telegram channel as well. And guys, speaking of my free Telegram channel, Hype is a coin that has been on my radar for the last several streams. You guys know that. This morning, I did share a trade on Hype. Actually, my last couple trades that I shared were with Hype. The first one, I ended up hitting, well, just basically taking a quarter of my profits. Juicy profit there, and the remaining 3/4 got stopped out overnight last night. But I did end up taking another position just because we were trading right at my 115 fib so perfectly there that, as I mentioned, it's so close that basically it's high risk in the sense it's likely going to get stopped out, but my invalidation, the 115, is so close, and that's a huge risk reward. My stop loss, blah, blah, blah. Basically letting VIPs know how it goes. And just look how accurate that was, right? Look how accurate that touch to the 115, this red line, was. If I just zoom out, you can see it a little bit better. But that's why I took that trade, just because it was such a tight invalidation setup. So I've already locked in half of that position as I went, letting VIPs know on the way. and the rest is risk free because the stop loss is at break even on the rest of that position. So absolutely beautiful. But yeah, hype has been on my radar for a little while now, and obviously if the rest of the market ends up going to the downside, I assume this would do the same. It would not be invulnerable to that. However, so far looking okay. I want to bring up the trend master. I'm curious. So we do still have what I really don't like about this, to be honest, is the fact that we even dropped below this level here. So going to that 115, it's nice that we held that level. However, the fact that we dropped this pivot, which gave us our previous buy signal, that is a bit of a warning to me. Kind of mixed signals right now, though. I'm willing to give that a little bit of a pass. Maybe we end up printing a lower buy signal that's actually maybe gives us a little bit of momentum just because we still have a higher buy signal on the trend. So I'm still expecting good things out of the next buy signal with the MDX Trend Master. So I'm hoping we do hold this support and the position keeps running. But obviously, again, anything is possible. Going back to Bitcoin here, I want to take a look at the weekly, obviously, as I always do. Nothing has really changed here ever since the weekly close. Yeah, it's great that we closed the weekly above my yellow line here, just so that we are still closing weekly candle bodies above the bodies back here. We are still struggling with the resistance of where the wicks were. However, as I've been mentioning recently, I love that the RSI has actually climbed a little bit higher, giving us a bit of a divergence. So even though we're respecting the same resistance here, the RSI is telling us that we actually have significantly more strength in the trend. So I still have a feeling that we're going to end up breaking that. But of course, as I always say, anything is possible. It is very possible that we just form a big bear flag and we're going to continue a nasty leg to the downside, targeting some significantly lower levels. But I just have a feeling that we are going to see some sort of a bounce before we see too terribly low of prices in this market cycle. So obviously we'll have to see what happens. Even looking at Bitcoin, let's say zooming into the 1 hour, even though a lot of people are frustrated with the chop, but when you can really understand market structure for what it is, and even just the way I pull my fibs, you guys, and how I look at microstructure and just how I look at structure in general, maybe some of you guys were able to pick this up. This is a trade that I never even ended up taking this. I spotted it a little bit late, but just looking at the structure for what it is, we had a high back here. We have a higher high here. Again, this is the 1 hour. The lowest point between the two, that would be this guy right here, that wick. So I would be pulling a bullish fib. The one that I have outlined right now is basically pulled from that confirmed higher low to our confirmed higher high. And notice that where we ended up coming back to, again, people frustrated because we get this failed breakout, come back right back down. But notice what happens is we're just getting a retest of support. We never set another lower low. We never took out this level to the downside. We came down and tested it pretty much perfectly. So if anything, if you were looking to trade that, and again, I never did spot this in time, but maybe some of you guys did. But looking at this, that is technically, it's a bit tricky to spot, but it is there. And if you took that STUBER fib, you would have hit 3 of your entries absolutely beautifully, getting into a beautiful average entry. But obviously it's too late to do anything about that now because it's already played out, right? It hit its first target there, the 0.5 fib, as well as the 214 fib. So even though I missed that, it's still good to pay attention to the fact that market structure is still behaving very rationally, in my opinion. I know a lot of people think that it's outrageous and it's too volatile, it's unpredictable because it's going up and down so much. But in reality, when you look at the structure for what it is, rather than focusing on all of the little chop, which is just smaller ranges inside the actual one, no structure was actually broken after we set this range, right? After we set our higher high, that confirmed our higher low, and we are still technically in that range. Even with that STUBER fib playing out, we have not changed that structure yet because we did not take out this high and we did not take out this low. So we still very much have the same range at play. To be honest, I would have felt a lot better about the bulls if they could have taken this guy just a little bit higher, something like that, in which case we would have had another higher high. We'd have a new confirmed higher low, and we could have pulled a fib there. But notice I'm not pulling a bullish fib right now from this level to this level just because that structure hasn't changed. We haven't broke the highs, we haven't broke the lows of that range. So it is what it is. As far as, this little bit of weakness, the fact that we never set a higher high and what it could mean is, like I said, guys, it is possible still that we do see a little bit lower. As I mentioned, the 4 hour, it's starting to show some nice strength out of a bunch of the indicators. However, when we look at the CME futures chart, just notice that we still have that gap down all the way to about 88.2K. It actually runs from about 88.7 or even 88.8 down to about 88.2. So that would also be some confluence very well right around that diagonal trend line from my triangle that I was talking about. That would actually be even more confluence around that level, obviously, because like I said, 88.7 down to 88.2. So it is still possible. Generally speaking, we do fill the CME futures gaps. It doesn't always happen, but it happens very, very often. So I still have my orders set down there. You guys in the VIP know how I had set those actually a few days ago. But basically, I have a few orders lower just in case we do end up getting that push to the downside. Bitcoin dominance. I don't like what I see right now. The fact that Bitcoin dominance is trying to go for a little push. I much so prefer to see this dump to the downside. I really want to see, and it's still early to say, right? It's not like this has been invalidated yet. We have not taken out this blue horizontal line here up at about 60% Bitcoin dominance. We have not taken that out yet by any means. I really want to see this end up rolling over. That would be such a good sign for the market as a just in general, the market as a whole, the altcoins. If basically the market could trend sideways, slightly higher, just very controlled to the downside, basically anything other than totally being spooked and absolutely nuking. If we could see Bitcoin dominance drop and see people having a higher risk appetite, basically, that would be great for the altcoin market. So this is something that I'm really keeping my eye on, if you guys haven't noticed, for the last week or two, and why I'm still interested in trading altcoins. But yeah, if this ends up climbing and invalidating this sell signal here, I would have my concerns about where the market is heading. But so far, still looking okay. Let's zoom into the 5 minute on hype just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So we do have a bit of a downtrend on the 5 minute. And really, that's kind of why I was looking at taking in some more profits, as I mentioned earlier. Just because if we look at the basic market structure for what it is, we lost a little bit of structure on the uptrend, right? Whether we wanted to look at this as our high or our higher high. So whether we wanted to look at this as our level that ended up breaking, or this as our level that broke, or this as our level that broke, either way, the micro trend here was broken. So technically, even the fact that here we have a low and another lower low, so we have a confirmed lower high on the micro trend. So again, I'm comfortable with the fact that I took some profits off that position, because as soon as I see any weakness, I'm basically looking for reasons to start downsizing my positions, just to downsize my risk, to make sure that I pay myself and all that sort of good stuff, you guys. But I do want to keep part of that position open. It's still possible. The trend master, although we're trading just below that purple line, still technically have a buy signal. It's very possible that we just end up, even if we pull to the downside, it's possible we just set a higher low and continue. But if we end up dropping down, and like I said, my stop loss is at break even on the rest of that position either way, because I just don't want to leave that risk open right now. And guys, for those of you who appreciate the fact of just looking at the charts for what they are, looking at very basic market structure and some of my favorite strategies and so on, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because we're not about hype here. We're not about, well, the coin hype, yes. We're not about that FOMO. We're not about that FUD. We're really just here to, as traders, looking at the charts for what they are and trading the charts that we have in front of us, rather than charts that we hope we end up having months down the road, right? So if you appreciate that, hit that thumbs up button. Zcash still looking like one of the weaker coins, although it does have those big volatile moves. Like I'm pretty sure it's one of the bigger movers in the coins that I've been watching, at least lately, as far as the upside goes. But just been seeing some weakness in general on this guy. Even right now, we obviously broke a little bit of an uptrend here. Well, both of these ones that I've had mapped out now for a little while. This was the guy that I was talking about yesterday, I believe, or the day before. I can't remember. Maybe it was Friday. But either way, we ended up losing that uptrend and then print a little downtrend, right? When we end up invalidating that lower high on the trend, then we go for our little rip to the upside. And I shouldn't even say little rip. That was actually what was that? Almost a 10% move to the upside. But again, look what happens. Eventually we lose our higher low structure just because, and to be honest, we would have lost another one, right? Technically we would have lost one there. But then the main one that I'm looking at right now, the one that is still valid, we would have had our high, higher low, broke that. And then notice what happened, right? We came back, we get our retest of resistance, hit that 786 damn near perfectly. Never quite hit the 886, kind of got like halfway into my STUBER fib pocket, but seeing a bit of a rejection there. And so far just starting a little micro downtrend. I don't know how long this is going to go. Obviously, we've already hit the first target, still eyeing up my second target here. But yeah, Zcash, nice and volatile either way. If you have aggressive appetites and you have high risk appetites, this is one that obviously there's a lot of opportunities there. It's just that understand it is quite volatile and the leverage might have to be toned down a little bit compared to many other coins. SUI, still not looking too bad. It is looking a little bit weak. I would really like to see us pop to the upside, being that we're just consolidating along the support, even after testing the 786 there of the micro trend. But as long as we're holding above $1.65, basically, this is looking good to me. Just because even on the 4 hour here, let's take my indicators away, we still have that basic structure. This would have been our last high and our higher high. Therefore, the lowest point between the two is our confirmed higher low, and that is my yellow trend line there. So obviously, we would have to break that for me to lose any confidence on the midterm trend with SUI. It's still looking pretty good to me. AVAX, very much the same. Well, actually not quite the same thing, because the uptrend was broken. Right? If we look at this, we lost this level, obviously, and we have been trending to the downside a little bit. We still do have potential support from the trend master. We haven't printed, even if we set, like right now, if this flips blue and we end up getting a sell signal on the trend master, it is a significantly higher one. So if anything, I would be more so looking at getting into long opportunities if we get some sort of a pullback from our previous little pivot there. So that's kind of the support that I would be looking at now if we end up continuing to push to the downside, with support basically starting around, let's just call it 12.777, just to keep it easy there. Let me know in the chat how you guys are doing. I hope you guys are all crushing this market. I hope you guys are having a fantastic 2026 so far. Very exciting times ahead, you guys. Markets are picking up. Volatility is heating up. This is just fantastic to see, and I love seeing you guys here. So thank you for being here with me, you guys. Just catching up on the chat here a little bit. I just want to see BTC at 25,555 so I can buy more and start over again. Yeah, wouldn't we all love that? We would all love, well, I shouldn't say we would all love it, because a lot of people would not have money on the sidelines waiting for that. I don't think that's ever going to happen again. Anything is possible. My low, the opposite of Moonboy targets, I guess my Abyss targets are more so like 40,000, 40 to 45,000. But even that, I don't know how probable it is. It's just possible if we go into a full-on bear market. 25K, I just don't see it happening anymore. Although with leverage and slippage, you never know. It could absolutely happen, but Habu just left his place and I started a video. Yeah, sorry. I'm done snowboarding and I felt like I gotta hammer out a stream before I pass right out here. My whole body feels like jelly. I've just been crushing the kiteboarding lately. Very good snow, very, very fun to play in. So I am just exhausted. Financial astrology and technical analysis for Bitcoin do not look very favorable for 2026. Honestly, I kind of feel the same. Like, so that's kind of the thing, right? Is I'm sounding more bullish than I've been for the last several months. You guys, I still think Bitcoin has topped for this cycle. I am very happy to be wrong about that. I would love to see us go parabolic, but realistically, I just have a feeling this trend is cooked. I still think that the midterm can get a beautiful bounce. I think that would give the fuel needed to altcoins for altcoins to do their thing. Because that's another thing, right? Is a lot of people are very excited to, or very disappointed with altcoins, but they're excited to see Bitcoin go parabolic because they think that means that their altcoins are going to go parabolic. But quite often, what happens at the end of the cycle when Bitcoin has actually topped, gets a big pullback, but then gets some sort of a dead cat bounce, a short-lived bounce, even if it's several months, because obviously the weekly takes a while to play out. But let's just say that, hey, maybe Bitcoin has topped, but it still does something like this. And whether it goes to all-time highs or just the STUBER fib, something like that, that would give plenty of time, as long as Bitcoin dominance is dropping and nothing's spooking the market too badly. That would give us a huge green light for altcoins to do their thing. And I think that's where things would get really exciting. So I actually don't mind if Bitcoin has topped for the cycle, because I think that's kind of what we need before altcoins can actually, start making their move. That's where we start to see the greed in the market and we start to see that money flowing around to other assets. That would be absolutely fantastic. But obviously, we will have to see what happens, because the market makers and the market in general does not give a shit about my feelings or my opinions. So we're just going to have to play it as it comes. But yeah, I agree that overall for the year, I do think that we get that short-lived bounce. I think the midterm is looking good, but I do have my concerns for the longer trend as well. What do I look at for confidence when re-entering a fib play that has already played out to the TPs previously? If you're referring to something like my hype position, the only reason I entered that hype position was because we tested that 115 absolutely perfectly, and I saw that reaction there, and I thought, this is just a chance to get into a very tight stop loss setup. I didn't have a bunch of I didn't have faith in that position. I thought it would get stopped out, but that's just playing the risk reward and looking for a big setup, right? Because if this does end up going to some of my targets, obviously like I said, I've already taken half my profits or whatever, but even hitting the 0.5 fib, we would be looking at about a 13-to-1 risk reward. If we end up hitting the 214, that's where we're looking at a 19-to-1 risk reward. So that's the only reason why I took that long position. As far as if that's not the situation you're talking about and you're talking just in general, I typically only have a lot of faith in the first time that the STUBER fibs get tested. The second time they get tested, it's a lot less likely that it's going to play out. Like Zcash, for example, if we end up coming up here, I'm not interested in shorting that again. I like to look for that first move advantage where that level is going to get tested generally. And by tested, I mean see if we get some sort of a reaction, and then if we end up basically testing that level again, that's where we're starting to chip away at it, in my opinion. Obviously, resistance would still be resistance until it's broken. So if I still had bearish gut feelings based on other indicators or something else lining up as confluence, a divergence in the RSI, the MDX Trendmaster printing trending signals, something like that, I would consider playing it a second time. However, I would generally be keeping my position smaller, just keeping that risk management in mind that, hey, it's already played out once. It's less likely to play out. It still could, but it's just a little less likely. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Have a look at render on the 4 hour. I will take a look at that because that is one I haven't looked at in a long time. I used to follow that one a little bit closer. Looking at the 4 hour for render. That's nice. I like that. So what I'm seeing, and tell me, Adrian, if this is exactly what you're seeing on render, but to me, I am seeing this as our high. We broke it, so that's a higher high on the 4 hour, thus confirming this as our higher low on the trend. So I would be pulling a fib something like this. So with render, basically I would be looking at support from 221, and basically invalidation would be below a little wiggle room below 195 basically. So if I were to play this from a long perspective, I'd be looking at laddering in something like this basically. Or if you wanted to wait for a real tight stop loss setup, kind of like what I did with hype earlier, if you wait until the price is down at these levels just to go for that very tight risk reward. But looks pretty good. I love the fact that it has a higher high and a confirmed higher low. So yeah, I like what I see there. Guys, I think that's that is about all I wanted to look up. Eugenia, I will take a look at BTC on the 5 minute for you quick, because for some reason I haven't looked at the DGen timeframes. I really have mixed feelings about this. From a 5 minute perspective, and the 15 would likely be the same. Yeah, I'd be looking at it the same. So like I said, I would feel way better about it if this high actually set a higher high. I would feel much better about pulling a fib from this level. That being said, looking at it from a more micro time frame and just for the current swing, we did still get a pivot there, and we did break some structure, right? The fact that we broke some resistance there, whether we wanted to say this technically low, lower low, lower low, that would be our lower high. We broke that. So at this point, looking for some sort of a fib pullback, I would basically be looking at that, which would give us potential support, basically starting around 90.6K, and 886 would be around 90.3K, 90.1K for the double bottom, and the swing fail zone would run down to about 89.7K. So that's what I'd be seeing on the lower time frames for Bitcoin. But guys, I actually have to get running here. So I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. One last time, if you appreciate these live streams, please do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If anybody else had any requests in the chat, sorry, I'm not going to catch up with all the chat here, but I will right when I wrap up here. And if there is more altcoin requests and stuff like that, I will be posting them into the Telegram channel. So guys, as I mentioned, for those of you interested in learning and seeing more examples of some of my favorite trade strategies, how I use Fibonacci's, market structure, give more of my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor, scan that QR code to get into my Telegram. And like I said, my partners at BloFin are currently running this special promo for my followers. That's new and existing users in my Telegram channel. So if that is something that interests you, get involved there. But with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thank you so much for being here with me once again. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. Peace out.